All Blacks are taking on Los Pumas. That is this Sunday as the curtain raiser to a double header at CBUS Super Stadium on the Gold Coast in Australia. It's a rugby league ground. It is not, crucially, as we'll talk about with the Wallabies, Suncorp Stadium, which is interesting, but it is in Queensland. And so kickoff is, you have down 8:05 Irish time, where we are in the UK and Ireland. 8:05 in the AM on Sunday, but it's Sunday evening actually in Australia. The referee Nick Berry, Aussie ref, Jaco Piper and Graham Cooper on the sidelines, and Brett Cronin from Australia is the TMO. And so this is obviously, we were just talking about from the All Black point of view, it's the next stepping stone for them on their way to this mountainous battle with the Springboks that's upcoming. But it is a 2-week series against a side that did put egg on their face last year with a 25-15 win. They'll still have that in the back of their minds. They did pay them back with a 38-0 response.
And ultimately taking the Tri-Nations last year as well. But even still, that is their one defeat. I think is it 29-1-1? Was that what you were saying? The record is between these teams. So New Zealand have triumphed 29 times. That was Argentina's first win last year. And normally the All Blacks have memories like elephants for things like that, and they'll be very keen to punish them yet again, because one hammering is not enough to make. No,
they won't be sleeping on the Pumas. We had our don't sleep on the Pumas banner for the Springbok game against the Pumas. I don't think the All Blacks will either.
They'll be keen to keep their momentum that they've built very nicely all summer long, and coming from a very successful Bledisloe campaign, this now it's back-to-back series, just the way this rugby championship is working. Each team is playing each other twice and then moving on. And it's going to be the headline event is them v South Africa. So in the meantime, they need to keep their points high enough. They are currently in the lead. They have 10 points through 2 rounds.
Yes, they're the Springboks 9. One clear of the Springboks, that's right.
So bonus points will be important here. It is the 3-try bonus point rule for them.
Yes.
So that'll all factor into the thinking. Obviously win the game first, but this team has such an acumen for scoring that they'll be hunting bonus points.
Usually any All Black win is usually a bonus point win these days, but they'll definitely be coming in as strong favourites. As far as the squads are concerned, we don't actually have them yet. I think you guys probably will by the time this video is up, but we're not expecting too much in the way of dramatics. Whitelock and Aaron Smith
are back in
still
the fold.
They're still back home, along with Moanga, so I'm expecting.
I think they're paternity, isn't it?
That's it.
All
three of them.
Congrats to all three.
Yes, indeed.
The team is still strong in their absence. It was very impressive without Whitelock as well. So
I don't expect too much chopping and changing from the All Blacks. There's always the odd decision to be made. TJ Perenara put his hand up. Ethan Blackadder maybe put his hand up for a starting position. Tupou Vai could come in. They're full of options as always, but in the main, I think their squad is pretty solid. For the Pumas, things are a little more concerning, although the spine of that All Black team being missing is still really consequential. But for the All Blacks have depth that the Pumas don't have, and crucially they're missing Carreras, who has been a stalwart in the back three, and also Nico Sanchez,
that is
who
a big
is
loss.
The architect and scorer of all 25 points in the win over the All Blacks last
year.
So
will be that without him, Miotti will have to step up, as he started the last game for them as well, and Sanchez came off the bench. But it's a much bigger task now when you're the main man.
I haven't been overly in love with Miotti. Diaz Benicia is the other option. He's had the odd couple of caps. I think his career highlight, Diaz Benicia, was leading the Jaguares team
to the Super Rugby final. In what might be their last Super Rugby showing now, and got them all the way to the final with that. And then ultimately didn't go to the World Cup, so Ledesma obviously didn't fancy him. I think it was Erda Pajeta got the nod
that's
over
right,
him,
and
rightly or wrongly.
He's also gone with just the one out half in a 23 before Ledesma has.
They're not averse to 6-2 splits, and to be honest, the strength of this team has been their forward pack and defence. So if they're modelling it on the Springboks, while as evidenced by rounds 1 and 2, not a good idea against the Springboks because you end up being cancelled out, it was still their recipe for success last year against this All Black team, was building on a lot of forward work. So it's possible they do go 6-2 or something, and that would leave a lot of responsibility on Miotti, the 10, because
well, they do have a number of back options. I mean, their pack is pretty consistent. You're going to have the usual heads in there, whatever way they go about it. So Lavanini appears to be back in the fold, but have Guido Petty.
They still have Alamano. We haven't seen as much of him.
Alamano's been in there. They have Guido Petty. They have Kramer. They sort of very similar.
Is Issa back available?
Issa's out, gone.
after his great showing against the Box.
That's it. So that's definitely a blow. But they do have Pablo Matera would be a step above the rest. The rest are really quality, really physical specimens in the loose forward and tight forwards. And Julian Montoya is a fine player as well.
Yes, that's true.
But they're all just a little, overly emotional sometimes and give away a load of penalties
sometimes overzealous, and certainly that was the case.
Similar problems with all of them, and different ones popping up with different terrible plays. Sometimes they'll all have to step up and play really, really well this time around. Bruni is the other one who's been class.
He's really good, and he's a young buck for them at number 8, and he's a really good footballer as well. I think he's the least hot-headed of them, and his penalties tend to be like jumping early offside or something like that, which is another version of criminal penalty to give away against a team of this caliber, which we'll get into now in terms of their discipline being their route to success.
100%. But I would say that as far as their backline is concerned, Chocobaris has been the standout, a really quality footballer. A guy he's been in the 13 shirt, but the way things are going at 10, I wouldn't mind seeing him have a cut at the 10 shirt, to be honest. And they also have they have better health than they had going into the Springbok series. They have Boffelli back available to select, Maroney back available to select, Orlando back available to select, and then obviously they've got their De La Fuentes. They obviously don't have Carreras, but they do have Juan Cruz Malia and Mendy, who started on the wing the last time, so they'll have to put it back to him.
They have a fair bit of minutes in terms of form for all of those guys. They're all test level guys that you can just throw in when a guy calls. So they're missing a fullback. Carreras, Boffelli maybe straight back in there. He's a guy that they do trust. We don't know, but they do have myriad options. But I think what they need to put something together, because they haven't been emphasising their attack nearly enough and haven't been scoring enough points. And part of that, the backline has a lot to answer for, because as much as some decent showings from some, their overall passing has not been good enough of late to unpick top defences. So definitely a part of the puzzle for Ledesma to get the balance right there. Just looking ahead from both teams' point of view, starting with the home side, in air quotes, the All Blacks, who get the home tag this week. I think they're closer to home than certainly in the other fixture thing, but certainly, because the Pumas have had to travel recently and had to do their quarantine thing, so I think in theory Australia is closer to home base for the All Blacks. But from their point of view, it's going to be a moment, kind of keep the pedal down and kind of keep the momentum going. They'll want to start strong, impose themselves on the Pumas early, and they'll be very confident in their offense and the skill set they built this year and their ability to ultimately outscore them when it matters. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting game, an interesting series of games from the All Blacks' point of view, because the one thing that is true of this Pumas team is that they're tough to break down. They're physical in all versions of the word. And their expertise, their best strength is shutting down multi-phase attacks. Yes. And causing them problem and turning them into a weakness. And in that sense, the All Blacks can really use these games as a dry run for the Springbok tests, I would say. It's going to be very interesting to see. Obviously, the Wallabies, they're a decent defensive team, but they're a kind of team that wants to take you on in a shootout. They are. And they move the ball much more. There's fewer kicks. It's kind of a different entity altogether. Whereas in terms of a run-in for the Springboks, this is more of a stylistic. It's very similar. It is very similar, and it'll be a real test of the All Blacks multi-phase offense, whether or not they can get outside them. It was a problem for them last year. I mean, they weren't accurate enough last year. They weren't as accurate as they've looked this year last year throughout the whole entirety, and the Argentinians, with an emotionally charged performance, were able to exploit them for it. Yes, and I think the 38-0 win came in large part off the back. Obviously, there was the emotional dump from the Pumas, but actually the All Blacks resolved to defend themselves a lot more, kick a lot more, and win it with their forward pack, which is where they've gone when the chips are down quite a bit in recent years. They're working on this offense, they're working on being the All Blacks again, but we're not really seeing them pull those game out of the fire magic moments that we saw in 2015, 2016. Do you remember when every time they'd be in trouble, their offense would find something and they'd find a winning try by hook or by crook? Generally, when the chips are down, they're like, put it up with a jumper, we're going to win the forward battle, because they back their forward pack and their defense, and they're right, they do have top arguably quality. The second and second best in both of those areas, apart from obviously the Springbok challenge, which is coming, and interestingly this Pumas challenge as well. I mean, they'll back themselves at the scrum, they will back themselves physically, but I just think the most intriguing thing to see from this match, I think they are
favourites to win it, but it'll be interesting to see how they go about it. Are they going to try and beat the Pumas up front, set that solid foundation, beat them at their own game, and then maybe run in some tries against a tired team in the second half? Or are they really going to try and attack from the middle third and give us an insight as to what they're going to try and do, and find out a little bit about themselves against a tough defence?
Yeah, I think they will probe from the middle third, as they did similarly in Australia, but I think there will be just more kicking in general. Like turnover is still their main recipe for tries, because their transition play is so lovely, and that turnover can be from a rip at the breakdown, from a rip out of a maul. It was from picks, from clean intercepts. The last few times we've seen them, but kick return I think will be more of an emphasis this time, because they will expect that this Argentina team will kick at them. So it'll just be a focus of, there'll be more of those chaos plays. So the back three will have to be firstly alert to the aerial contest and win that, but then the transition from that will be a very key element to their scoring acumen in this game. I think they will probe for a few phases, but they won't push it. If they're getting shut down, I think they will kick. And they'll be confident that their defence, which is very, very good, should be enough for this kind of.
They'll like the matchup when the Pumas have the ball for sure.
So they'll probably go to it a little more. A few attacking kicks, like we saw good variety from Beauden Barrett last time out in terms of his kicking choices. We had a few cross field ones, probing ones. We had little chips over the top. We had grubbers through the middle. Like mixing up that, even if you're not, if a set's not going anywhere, I don't think they'll necessarily go to a box kick, and if they do box kick, it'll be quicker than you'd see in the Northern Hemisphere, or even quicker than you'd see from the Pumas as well. I don't know that they'll necessarily build caterpillar rucks and do the whole chase thing. They might be more inclined to, is it going somewhere? Are we finding space? No, kick it away, go up in a line and go again. I think they'll be confident that if they can keep the tempo reasonably high, they'll be the ones to find the score ultimately. If a phase goes long enough, as we saw against Australia, they'll be the team that are more accurate in those moments and are able to pull away. If it's going one way and then another bit of kick tennis, a counter attack, another kick, one of those phases that just goes on and possession changes a few times, very often you see the All Blacks finding something to pull away in those moments.
Yeah, I would say that the most likely game plan and the most likely outcome probably is them to go toe-to-toe with the Pumas in the early goings. Probably each team be a little ill-disciplined and they'll exchange some three-pointers. But in and around that half-time mark, they'll probably grab a couple of tries by hook or by crook, some way, somehow, and then probably another to see them home, another one or two in the last quarter, just to see them home with the bonus point. I think that's what your money selection is on, but it will be that the defence is interesting, both defending the Pumas, just being patient. Like the Pumas, when they are energised, can be mighty physical, and if the All Blacks find themselves blasting backwards, not giving away penalties, just not panicking, being as composed as they have been in the early season, and then on the ball as well. I'm just fascinated to see their some of the multi-phase plays have been stellar. They've worked the space really well. Their handling is on fire. They're picking smart lines. They're getting to the extremities. I'm very, very curious to see them take on this Pumas team, where they think the weaknesses are, how they access them, whether they can get outside a rushing defence. I think the Pumas last year, in a slight difference to the box, they spread the field really well. It wasn't so much on the scramble. They just spread the field and stuck one-on-one tackles really well. So if they can sort of isolate little pockets, suck in two players here and there, and then pick shark lines on the inside, it would be interesting to see. I don't think that the Akira Iwani space is going to necessarily be there this time.
Not as much as maybe just a space through the middle, if they can kind of get right of contact well and get an offload, or just overload one defender
your
who's
Cody
covering
Taylors
too much
and
space.
the like, just picking a line off Retallick in a carry that doesn't look like there's anything on. All of a sudden Retallick wins his contact and Cody Taylor takes it and quickly passes it to someone, and then away we go.
And that's kind of the footballing skills of all of their forwards allow them to do that. Like you can be looking at who you think is a fatty, but Bowen might stick that pass, or Laulala might stick that pass, and then there's someone else away. Dane Cole's like, oh, is he a fatty? No, he's gone. He looks like a centre in open space. But a combination of speed and skill is what they're going to try and use to drive through the Pumas as well. They'll emphasise key moments. Like I'd expect they're happy to exchange threes in the opening quarter, but as it's ticking towards half time, if they get a cheap penalty, I'd expect them to go to the corner. I'd also think once the Pumas do get the ball in their territory, I think they might be pretty quick to give away penalties. They're normally that way anyway, and I think this Pumas team have shown them that they will kick the 3-pointer. They won't necessarily go for the throat very quickly or
they haven't done it at all.
Haven't
they
done it
kicked
at all
3
so
pointers
far.
when they were about 15-16 points down last week. It was
so
if
they're starting slowly, if the All Blacks find that they are losing a few contacts in the early going, I think they will be quick to go to a penalty and happy to concede the 3 points and then go again, because they're confident of their ability to find 5 or 7 in a heartbeat against a team that's unwilling to do so against them. They'll always back themselves in that matchup if they're scoring in 5s to your 3s.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think just looking at it from the other point of view, perhaps it's more interesting sometimes to look at it from the point of view of the underdog and how you solve this very, very difficult All Blacks puzzle. I think the answer is to make very, very few mistakes. First of all, I mean, you have to really starve them of opportunities to open you up, because they're so exemplary at doing it.
Yeah.
Obviously, their bread and butter is going to be defense and
set piece. They need to.
They're missing their starting tight head.
It starts. Even with the new personnel, they have to be at least solid, and if not, trying to put a nudge on. Like they need to be secure on their own ball, because in the opening test of the opening Springbok game they played, their line out arrows were loose, and it was unusual to see Montoya, who's normally so solid that way in that place. And then in the second one, Petty, his discipline just went to pot.
Just on defense, he was just constantly playing guys
playing the arm, and it's just those penalties will be punished by the All Blacks easily.
That's a consequence of forcing it for me, though. I think they just need. I think obviously every team needs a solid set piece, but I don't think they're going to force penalties on either the line out or the scrum against the All Blacks. The All Blacks look really well drilled.
Do their first job first, which is be secure of it.
But from a winning the game point of view, the focus is going to be on the defense. Obviously, that's the model from last season. Stretch the field, get out in front of the All Blacks, really challenge them to put some pressure on you. And then obviously the backfield defense is going to, because they spread the field so much, it's going to be on whoever it is, Bertranu or I don't think Cabelli's back, but Bertranu or Azcura, to cover the backfield sharply off on the multi-phase defense, along with whoever they have at fullback, just dealing with high balls and winning the kicking game. I thought as good as their forward pack are, as good as the Kramers are, and you're gonna need all of that sort of mad Pumas energy, and hopefully
it needs to be married with discipline, because if it's snowballing through penalties, if it's over eager, overzealous, even if you can't fault the effort, you can fault the consequence. If you're jumping offside, even if it's in the second minute of the game, it's an in for the All Blacks. You can't be doing
100%. They're going to need to spend the whole game not doing that.
Yes, it needs to be pretty clean and very aggressive and very emotionally charged, but pretty clean has to be the recipe for them. But it also that game plan you're describing in terms of winning it, they don't win that game without a stellar performance, an assured performance from their 10, which is Miotti this time around.
That's what I was getting at, exactly. And I think Chokavaris is a nice little weapon that maybe the All Blacks might not know much about. They haven't faced him yet. I think maybe he was in the team last year, but he was
in the team last year, and to be honest, actually he was signed. He had a weird one where he was signed for the Auckland Blues but couldn't make it out of Australia,
so he's on the radar,
or out of Argentina. So he is on the radar. He's a good footballer. He's someone that the All Blacks would kind of fear if they can put something together cohesive on offense. But we haven't seen it yet.
A sharp kicking game first and foremost from the tee, and then secondly from hand, to position them downfield and marry that with good discipline is going to be absolutely vital. The defense is the bread and butter. I hope that they have their pocket of fans that they had in Oz last year that served them so well. Jumping up and down, going mental, giving them a bit of energy. They're going to be trying to big themselves up and give themselves energy. They do love that emotional output. Pablo Matera was near enough freakish level against the Springboks last time out. He just didn't have his men with him. But he like getting those big jackal steals, just those superhuman plays that caused the All Blacks such strife last year. All of that is going to need to be brought and then some, because of how well the All Blacks have been. And then on the other side of the ball, it's interesting because the All Blacks, like you were saying yourself, they give away penalties. If you can set up decent attacking positions in the All Black half,
they don't likely get a score from it.
They don't need to reinvent the wheel. They just need to carry strongly, support each other, and be very, very technical in terms of clearing the ruck and presenting the ball. Frustrate the All Blacks, take them through phases, and they will give away penalties. It comes from being really, really disciplined, holding your feet, like no diving off your feet, constantly being alive to the jackal threat that the All Blacks have through Ardi Sevilla and the like, and Papali'i.
Even TJ Piranara off the bench.
Absolutely. All of those All Black weapons, they're going to have to be really alive to it, but they don't need to move the ball mad. I don't think they're about to become scintillating Argentina.
No, and I don't think they're going to win a shootout with the All Blacks in Australia either. So
it's all about just like getting, first of all, just like carries from the likes of Montoya around the ruck, winning those contacts, being explosive, getting the ball out, then putting the ball in Miotti's hands and having an option of a guy like Bruni maybe a little bit further out to put a bit of footwork on, get through. If you can get someone like Chocobaris on the ball in a little bit of space to maybe find a seam with the grubber kick and pin the All Blacks back. Don't think they're going to open them up that easily.
No.
And I think you have to be mindful of the All Blacks scramble even if you do open them up. But taking them through the phases, winning a penalty, and then crucially I would say, because it's where they got their try the last time out, trying to strike on penalty advantage is huge.
Yeah.
Like, too many teams butcher those free plays. Like, really having a cut, and they need to have a plan in place for a multi-phase scenario and you win the penalty advantage. Where are you looking to attack? Yeah. What are you looking to do?
If
Find
it's
a
just
try.
Straight into the pocket and floated across field, it's not really going to amount to anything shy of an impeccable take, which probably isn't going to happen, like especially if the kick's not on the money. Yeah, look for something, try and work something. You're right about too many teams just tamely accepting that, and if you're programmed to kick threes when you're in that position, sometimes teams are all too happy to just chip the penalty advantage away or drop the ball deliberately, and it's wasteful because they will need scores. Like, it was 25 was their tally when they beat the All Blacks last time.
6 penalties.
It was many penalties, and the All Blacks were putting in a shocking display of ill discipline that you can't really expect from them every time you meet. So, like, you're going to have avenues to score. It's rare enough that 25 is enough points to beat the All Blacks. Sometimes it's closer to 30. So just when you look at the lack of scoring over the last few games, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to become a very, very naive or aggressive team from the middle third. But you do have to kind of, when the chips are down, you have to make decisions. You can kick threes in the early going, but like when it's if you have a penalty in a kickable position 4 minutes before half time, maybe kick that thing down the line and try and maul them over. Even if they turn you over and exit, you might get another go at it.
If you take that three, just looking at history, the All Blacks will score a try up the other end before half time. They are freakish in that way. They just will find a way to do it.
They just know the value of punishing you in those that passage of play. But like Argentina have been a bit tame in their intent to go for it. Certainly in those Springbok tests, like I remember them kicking it out when they were on 3, I think it was 18-3, and it was for half time, and they gathered a kick near the halfway line, and they were slow enough to fold their shape, so they just kicked it out. And it's like, really? You scored 3 in the first half, you're 3 scores down. How are you winning this game if you're not scoring right here, right now? You know, like a bit more urgency, because I think the All Blacks will ultimately find scores in the second half, even if it's a tight one in the first 30, even the first 50 minutes. You can always rely on the All Blacks to open things up in that last quarter. So yeah, a bigger tally, a points tally. They just need to get the scoreboard ticking over for them. It involves marrying all of those things: discipline, physicality, intent and ferocity on both sides of the ball, but also just being clinical.
I have a list of Argentina's fixtures up here since Ledesma took over, so this goes back to 2019, and I'm just looking at obviously they've been brilliant defensively in games, and
they've reinvented themselves.
They've had really good games, and they've been much better on the set piece, and they're a lot less loose than they used to be. But this is their scoring return in every game since Ledesma took over. 16 points, 10 points, 13 points, 18 points, 21 points, 28 points against Tonga in the World Cup, 10 points, 47 against the US, that was their best showing, 25, that was against the All Blacks last year, 15, 0, 16, 24, 20, 33 against Wales in July,
good one.
12, 10, and now we're going into this one. So like, they're very rare to see them push and get over 20. Very rare to see them get over for two or more tries. You're going to need to do that, I think. They're
going to need to flip that script, because like 25 is a great score, 25-15, great historic win. It's a rare enough scoreline like that beats the All Blacks. I know Ireland had a tight win against them as well, but it's just
this All Black team looked different as well.
Bank on them kind of playing you in with ill discipline the whole way and loose passing the whole day. Like it was an exceptional day in terms of All Black history as much as it was Argentina history, and they're going to have to build.
Yeah, it was still just one try. Like they're gonna need to find ways to get points. And I guess dovetailing into or just moving on into predictions for this game, that is my fear for them. That I just can't see them getting enough points on the board. I think the All Blacks.
I thought Australia attacked very well last week in patches and still couldn't get through them because their scramble's so good. And I don't like Australia have an intent to attack all the time. Whereas this particular Pumas side, despite having some good talent in the back line undoubtedly and some good speed out there, They haven't looked in a great shape. They're very slow to fold into their attacking shape, I have to say. They're quick to fold into a defensive line and come up off the line. But when they're on offense, like, they're very frequently facing a fully set line, and they're still kind of folding into some kind of shape, and it only goes one or two passes.
They don't look right. Right? No. It's the midway point between World Cups, and that is being revealed in Argentina's showings. They like to time it so that they show up for World Cups,
which is fine. They're still building from a good base. Their defense is top drawer, their pack is top drawer, their set pieces very, very good as well. So they have a lot of things to build on. But as far as recipes for success or predictions for this game, I think their inability to score will cost them. I think they might be in it for the first 30 odd minutes. I think it could play out similarly to some of these Bledisloe tests, in that I think the All Black quality will show in the second half. Between 55 and 70 minutes is
and probably around half time as well.
Yes.
So I would think I would think All Blacks 4 tries to nil, probably something along the lines of, a 16-6 lead at half time becomes a 37-9 win.
Would they kick that 3 then?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a very bad 3 to kick if they're already
16-6 down, and then you take that
to 16-9, and then don't score again.
They might even kick when they're 23-6 down.
Yes, that is a criminal one that they might do.
I think 4 tries to nil, All Black win. That's very pessimistic. The Pumas are better than that. I think defensively they'll be game, and it'll certainly be an entertaining watch in parts to see the All Blacks going at that defence. And there is a scenario where the Pumas hold the ball and frustrate them and rack up the points and do find a try, crucially, and then get on top of the All Blacks.
If they can flap them.
But more likely than not, just on the form of the two teams, 4 tries to nil, All Black win, I would think.
Yeah, well, I'll give the Pumas a little bit more credit, and I'll say 4 or 5 tries to 1. I'll say that they do get in, maybe Matera, maybe Montoya this time. The thing, I think it could be the last score of the game is that Pumas score. It could be that they're on 3 before then, or 6 or 9 or something, but I think they will grab a try against the All Blacks, possibly just because they're good forward runners and the little holes around the fringes. There should be some inroads there at least. But I think, ultimately the All Blacks will just outscore them here.
Yeah,
sunshine in Australia, it's going to be nice.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But listen, let us know what you guys think. I think it'll be a very entertaining game anyway.
100%. And we do have another one.
Thank you very much for watching the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to give it a like, share with your friends. And leave a comment down below as well. We really do want to hear your thoughts.